Hello, everybody. Dr. Jerry Ziffer here, acupuncture physician and certified nutrition health coach and lifestyle medicine coach. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about 5 steps to lowering your cholesterol. There's approximately 100 million people, Americans, I should say, struggle with high cholesterol, which can put them at a risk for heart disease and other health problems. So, I'm going to do this video here, sharing 5 tips that you can use while continuing to, even if you need to, work with your physician and to bring your cholesterol levels down. So, as I said, nearly 100 million people, Americans, have high cholesterol. And believe it or not, it's largely preventable. And it's not just an adult problem. About 7% of children between the ages of 7 and 19 also have it as well. And a lot of that probably has to do with the standard American diet. So how can we reduce this? How can we reverse this unhealthy trend? This is what I want to present and bring to your attention, so hopefully you can make some changes and, of course, lead to a little bit better health. So this is really concerning. I mean, you hear that number, 100 million people, 100 million Americans. And really, as I said, this is a largely preventable problem. The majority of people, the cholesterol levels are determined by their diet and lifestyle. And although there are a small minority of people who may have a genetic mutation that causes high levels of cholesterol, they may not respond specifically to diet and lifestyle in the same way, but it can still definitely help. But the good news is, as I mentioned, for the majority, it can be controlled. So let me start off by going over a little bit of what we call cholesterol reset, or cholesterol 101. So let's start off with, what is cholesterol and do we actually need it? So cholesterol is a fat-soluble molecule, if you will, that comes from the food that we eat, as well as it's produced in the liver. And we definitely do. We need it. Our cells use it to build cell walls. It's used to make various vehicles in our blood to carry things. So we need it, but here's the problem. Too much of it can cause significant issues, and predominantly a concern with high levels of cholesterol that can lead to cardiovascular disease. This remains the leading cause of death in the United States and actually worldwide. And we know that high cholesterol does contribute to it. So it's really important to manage your cholesterol levels. Now, we know that there's specific numbers that are associated with healthy and unhealthy blood pressure, but what about cholesterol levels? Generally speaking, I'm going to use the data from what's called the Framingham study, which has been going on for decades. And what we know from that is a total cholesterol of 150 or less is protective. People who maintain their cholesterol levels below 150 are at extremely low risk for cardiovascular disease. Now, I know sometimes you may go to the doctor and they'll say, we want under 200. But believe it or not, that is really high and it's not protective. And that's, again, why we have so many issues with our cholesterol problems. Now, the other number to keep in mind is first off, you'll see numbers that are associated with it. The ones that most often you'll see are LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. And another number you want to look at is the ratio of total cholesterol to HDL cholesterol. And we want that number to be under 4. That means it's protective. So we want to try to aim for one of those to be at a healthy level. So again, we want the total cholesterol to be under 150 and the ratio of total cholesterol to HDL cholesterol to be under 4. Now, what's the difference between HDL and LDL? For many people, this can be very confusing because they see this but don't really understand what it is. What HDL and LDL refer to are vehicles that carry cholesterol in the blood. So the LDL are like little cars as they travel through the bloodstream, and they carry cholesterol to the rest of the body, while HDL is the vehicle that removes it and takes it back to the liver where it can be removed. So an easy way to remember LDL, think of lousy cholesterol. We want to keep it as low as possible. HDL, think of healthful or good cholesterol, and we want that number to be as high as possible. So I'm going to I have some numbers from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. And for Americans, the main dietary cholesterol intake average is about 293 milligrams per day. For men, it's almost 350, and for women, it's a little bit less than that. So hearing that from as a health provider myself standpoint, we want to know that the optimal intake is much less than that, because otherwise it can be very alarming. So our cholesterol levels tend to run high, predominantly due to lifestyle and diet. And actually, as I've said, that's actually a good thing. The reason being, it doesn't have to deal with our genes. Although genetics does play a role, but only, as we say, genetics loads the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. It just means that if you have that potential, that it's there, but it can be for anyone. So the reason I say it's good news is because we can change our diet and lifestyle habits, and we don't have to rely on medications to bring it under control. So according to this study, 98% of the intake comes from meat, eggs, dairy products, and even fish. But it actually included grain products, which was really surprising, and you'll find out why in a minute. It's really important to remember that cholesterol, although we need it, we don't need to consume it. Our body makes all the cholesterol that it needs. So when we consume it, it only serves to elevate our cholesterol levels. The reason why this is important is because cholesterol is found in all animal-based foods: meat, poultry, fish, dairy, eggs. Okay? So they're all rich in cholesterol, whereas plants are naturally cholesterol-free. Now, why did they make the reference to grains? That's because they're referring to processed foods like breads and other processed type foods that have dairy, eggs, and other ingredients in them which contain cholesterol, and those sources are added to the grains, but it's not the grains themselves. So if we're consuming animal foods, we're likely to have a higher cholesterol level. So now that we have an understanding of what cholesterol is and how we get it, what can we do to lower our cholesterol levels and to avoid potential issues? So I have 5 suggestions that I'm going to give you to lower your cholesterol levels. First and foremost is cut out the foods that contain cholesterol. Okay? It's like you go to the doctor. Doctor, every time I raise my arm up like this, it hurts. And the doctor says, well, stop raising your arm up over your head. Well, if you're going to continue to eat cholesterol-laden foods, you're going to have the problem. Okay? Because you keep putting it in. Remember, all animal-based foods are loaded with cholesterol. People don't understand, even when they think of milk, and cheese. Cheese is made of milk, and there are extremely high levels of cholesterol in the cheese. People also don't associate fish with having cholesterol, and so they'll turn to it thinking that it's a healthier source. But fish is also very high in cholesterol, especially shellfish. And chicken and eggs, all loaded with cholesterol. So if you lower your level, to lower your levels, remember to cut the foods out that are containing it, okay? And by eliminating those foods, we're stopping the elevating of our levels. But let's say you don't want to go all in. Let's say you want to wean yourself off of certain animal-based foods, but don't know exactly where to start. First off, we recognize the fact that this issue does exist. And the first step, I just commend anyone who does accept it and makes the choices possible, okay? So now start to limit your sources. A little bit here, a little bit there, okay? Now, the USDA stated that if you consume foods that contain cholesterol, no more, now they come up with a number and said no more than 200 milligrams per day should be added. So let's see what 200 milligrams are. One egg has 185 milligrams. So if you're having more than one egg, you've exceeded it right there. Now let's say you keep it to one egg. What about the foods that you eat during the day? Check your labels. Many of our processed foods contain egg in them. Now think about all the meat, dairy, other eggs, fish, etc. that you're eating on a daily basis. And all those start to add up on a regular basis. And you wonder why we have such an epidemic of heart disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, stroke, Alzheimer's, okay, that we have. Unfortunately, in this country, when we go to the doctor and the doctor takes a blood test and determines that you have high cholesterol, what do? Well, they recommend giving them medication, okay? They don't tell you to stay away from the cholesterol foods. They don't even ask you that question. They put in a medication to, quote, manage your cholesterol levels. But like anything else, it's not dealing with the root cause of the issue. Okay? No different than taking other medication for other things like heart disease or diabetes. It doesn't make sense to, or I should say, it makes sense to go to the root cause of what's causing these issues rather than trying to manage the symptoms of those, okay? So from a lifestyle medicine standpoint, the difference we tell you is stop eating the foods that are causing the problem. Now, the second thing is to avoid, or to reverse even, is what types of food should you be eating? So anything plant-based. The reason is they are naturally cholesterol free. And really, the next step is to aim for high fiber-rich foods. This one is easy because the main food ingredient in plants are fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes. Okay? Legumes are things like beans and lentils, like black beans. Man, they are loaded with protein and fiber. And these fiber-rich foods actually help remove the cholesterol from the body. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have fiber. It's also interesting to note that 97% of our population is fiber deficient. And unfortunately, when people sometimes they push these high-fat, low-carb diets, they're restricting even more so the fiber that people are taking in. Now, number 3. Now, some people, something that unfortunately people don't recognize, and even plant-based or vegan eaters don't really understand, is you want to avoid what's called tropical fats. Now, what do I mean by tropical fats? So within the plant-based family, we know that there's a majority of food, that the majority of foods are healthy, but there are some that are not so great. So fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, these are great. But these tropical fats, which are really high in fat, in particular saturated fat, they can also raise our cholesterol levels. So there are 3 basic food groups which we have that include chocolate, and I'm sorry to say, yeah, chocolate does have saturated fat, but if you do crave chocolate, go for the ones of the high levels of cocoa powder. Like I love the 92% in there, and there's much, much less of the saturated fat. But when you get your milk chocolate, that's when you're going to get higher. The next is coconut. Coconut is naturally high in saturated fat, especially coconut oils. So I recommend that if you're trying to lower your cholesterol, avoid all coconut. And coconut oil is, believe it or not a health food, despite the popular hype. There's no evidence that it can lower anything. And remember, because oils are pressed from their sources, that means they are void of all their nutritional content. And because they're so condensed, they're going to be extremely high in caloric density as well. Now, the third one is not used as much here, but still is found in foods, is palm oil. They're used in tropical countries, but again, mostly will be found in your processed foods. Now, this can be a problem because sometimes processed vegan meats, cheeses, butters, and other foods that contain the palm oils and the coconut oils, they think it's healthy, but it's really not. So just remember, just because it says vegan doesn't mean it's healthy. That's why I always refer to whole plant foods. Number 4, get regular aerobic exercise. This is really important and has a slew of benefits, and also in helping us lower our cholesterol levels. This is where we are rhythmically moving our whole body for long periods of time, like a minimum of 20 minutes or longer. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to go to a gym, but it could be walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, anything that's continuous over long periods of time. These can help improve our HDL and lower our overall cholesterol. So it's important to just get out there and move. Do you know that in the societies that are known as the blue zones, these are the places who have the longest living people with the lowest rates of disease, they don't schedule a time to work out during the day. What they do is they just move all day. They're very active throughout the day. And as we say, sitting is the new smoking. So it's important to frequently get up out of your chair and move around as much as possible. And number 5, this is the one that we don't want to forget. If you smoke, it's really important to quit. We know that tobacco has no health benefits and is loaded with health hazards, okay? So, and cholesterol is, this can one of them. It can worsen our cholesterol. So if you smoke, it's really important to stop. Not only will it improve your cholesterol, but it will reduce your overall risk for heart disease. Now, if you understand these 5 concepts, this can potentially answer the question for people who are plant-based. And let's say somebody says they are plant-based, but their cholesterol's high. Then what I like to do is to say, take a look at these 5 things, and maybe there's something off, and we can treat them. Okay, so we want to finalize things. We want to make sure that we're eating correctly, we're not smoking, we're exercising, we're reading labels, and we're really becoming more conscious and aware of our lifestyle, diet, and lifestyle habits. We want to, excuse me. The nutrition is what lays the foundation for what we're doing. Okay, and we don't want to do something temporarily. We want to do it full time, all day, every day. Okay. So I hope this helps you out a little bit, answer some questions. If you do have any questions, please leave it in the comments or message me, DM me, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. As a lifestyle medicine coach myself, I do offer a free, no obligation initial consultation where I want to find out what your specific needs are, what you have, and then to show you how I can specifically help. Lifestyle medicine includes the nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, and all other lifestyle habits. And it's all wrapped up into one. And it is not a diet. Okay? I don't believe in diets. So thank you for watching and listening. And happy holidays to everybody. And we'll talk soon. Thank you.